Very warm welcome to the sixth episode of the series of webinar called Truth Be Told. And this episode is focused on healing woes of working women with Bach Flower essences. And of course, working women would mean women who are working with other men and women folks, and therefore dealing with different kind of dynamics and how these dynamics are posing challenges to them, how they can avoid these challenges, and how, if they have to go through these challenges, the emotional leftover, the emotional residue, the emotional impact of that can be healed with Bach Flower essences. That's the focus of this webinar. So before we move any forward, I think I would like to get shout out from you. What are some of the challenges you face as a working woman? So if you are a working woman, you can share that. If you are not a working woman, you can share the challenges as you experienced through somebody who's close to you, maybe your friend, or maybe somebody from your family. And with that, I hand over the controls to Pooja to launch the whiteboard and guide you to write your response to it. Pooja, shall I stop sharing the screen?
Sure. All right, here is the whiteboard on your screens. You would also see another ribbon on top of your screen, which would say, select text, draw stamp. Are you able to see that?
Yeah, now I can see Orko's message. Yes, Orko. About our inner self, and not just the inner self includes two parts of it. One is the core inner self, the innate, the essential self. I will not touch much upon that, but I will definitely talk about the unconscious self, which is carrying our beliefs, because of which we behave, we respond, we react in certain ways. But maybe that gives me a fantastic idea to do another episode on Bach Flower essences and blossoming the inner self. Yes, subtle and not so subtle gender biased behavior. Awesome. The very purpose of Bach Flower is to connect us to your heart, to the higher self. And remind me, maybe you can ask me a question towards the end so that I can connect the entire session to that. By the way, that's one of my favorite things. But I like to stay more focused on what we are going to discuss. Harassment and gaslighting, somebody who has talked about it, it is becoming quite in vogue these days. And I'm very happy that you brought this up. Yes, so thank you very much. If you have completed, if you haven't, then just let Pooja know. See, I'm saying it's coming. Toxic work culture. And somebody may want to expand on what is so toxic about the work culture, because we are going to get into specifics. You can talk about more than one things that makes it toxic.
For example, being made to, staying late and working on
yes.
all that is being glorified, and those people are
absolutely
working more. Yeah.
It's called double bind, where you are supposed to do what the men folks are doing to be able to square up with them and be seen as, quote unquote, perceived to be more as efficient and as effective. Very, very interesting. Yes, that is one of them. Thanks, Bala. Anything else? Wow, that's fantastic. It seems that you actually dipped into my mind when I was preparing my deck of slides. Toxic relationships, toxic self and toxic energy, all these are related with toxic working culture. Yes, Orko, thank you. And Orko seems to be a very self-oriented person. Orko, you will like it very much, because here everything at the root of all challenges lies the self. And my personal philosophy is there's no other but me. And the moment I bring in a transformation in myself, my external reality changes. All the more because I'm sure most of you are aware of it, and I'm going to talk about in detail. I call Bach Flower essences as quantum medicine, as in they are vibrational. So in the world, everything is vibrational. There's nothing which is not vibrational. Einstein talked about it. The physicality that we see is an illusion. It's vibration happening at a low frequency. So the moment the self vibrates at a more functional frequency, at a higher frequency, you will be surprised to see. I'm not sure because workplace there are too many people with too much of toxicity. I'm sorry, I may be sounding a little biased, but within home you will see, especially with children, that the day when you are in a happy mood, in a state of gratitude, in a state of forgiveness, even the children are more harmonious in their behavior, which otherwise on other days you might feel they're not listening to you, they're not doing their homework, they're going out and playing all the time, all that. But it'll be very different. Thanks, Orko, for prompting me. We'll talk about that. So anyway, let me quickly reiterate, not having enough support from home, unreasonable deadlines and pressure to achieve more and more, feeling overwhelmed by the challenges, harassment and gaslighting, toxic relationship, which means also toxic self and toxic energy. All these are related to toxic working culture, guilt at not doing enough at home and work, basically the work-life balance, subtle and not so subtle gender issues, being made to feel inadequate. This is so awesome. And toxic work culture. Thank you so much. I will just save this and stop sharing. So, from the research that we carried out, and there's extensive research, there are essentially 4 top challenges: role conflict and strain, including work-life imbalance. So we are going to talk of that in terms of looking at what are those different aspects of me and the aspects of the other which are causing this. The second is workplace discrimination and bias, which also you have talked about. Third is abuse, bullying and harassment, gaslighting, harassment, all of that comes. And finally, even productivity issues. So which are not conditional to 1, 2, and 3, but pure productivity issues. We will address that. And each one would be looked at from 2 perspectives: the cause, the symptom, and how do we heal the emotional impact. Okay. Role conflict and strain. Let's understand what is first role conflict and strain. Now, this is at the root of many, many issues. So please understand this very clearly. So first, let's look at role conflict. And we all know, and I don't think I'm making any generalization, that women in general carry more roles than men, and especially if the woman is a working woman. So let's say at home, she's a mother, she's a wife, she's a daughter-in-law, she's a sister, she's a sister-in-law, and God knows it goes up. That's at home. At workplace, she is an employee, she's a team member, she could be a manager, she could be a peer, as in peer to somebody else who is working on something collaboratively, for example. She could be a customer, she could be a partner. So, enormous number of roles. And then comes the social aspect. So there are actually 3 worlds: the personal, professional, and the social. And there are women who are contributing significantly in terms of social relevance. There are roles that they play over there also. Now, there are essentially two types of roles. One role is that you have to do, which is driven by some kind of authority. Authority does not mean a person. It can be an institutional authority, or it could be a let's say a rule, a norm, an issue that could be anything that compels me to do something is authority. So I have to do. And then there are roles that I take which I choose to do. Now, the conflict arises. Obviously, the ones that you choose to do not lead to much of conflict, strain, stress, exhaustion, anything. As a matter of fact, even though physically you might be putting a lot of effort in things that, for example, you like cooking and you choose to cook. Those who have made a profession out of it, I would say they have done wonderful, but not many. There are people who would love to cook and they're very passionate about it. They feel purposeful and meaningful when they cook. But they have to be at workplace, and even if they're not in workplace, if they're working virtually, they need to log in and they stay logged in for at least 8 to 10 hours. And then there is, of course, family to be taken care of. So there is always a conflict between have to do and choose to do. So there are two ways to deal with it. One is a management way. To understand the management way, let's look at every role from a matrix, which is a 2x2 matrix. Value and effort. Every role offers you some value. Value not as in just monetary value, but value in terms of satisfaction, in terms of esteem, all the Maslow's need fulfillment values that I'm talking about, including self-actualization, and makes you feel more meaningful. There are roles which do not do that as much. There are roles which demand a lot of effort. There are roles which demand very little effort. So you may want to write down what do you do with. So that creates 4 possibility: low value, low effort, low value, high effort, high value, high effort, and high value, low effort. So the last quadrant is where you would like to be, all of us, irrespective of whether you're a woman or a man. How do I go about doing that? Very simple. Low value, low effort, you don't need to do it. Or you automate it. Very simple. Today, with ChatGPT being around, I think for almost every low value, low effort thing, it can be automated. High value, low effort, low value, high effort, you try and delegate. So I give you an example that, again, coming back, I don't know why I'm coming to cooking again and again. Or, okay, let me take another example. Guiding students in their studies and helping them with their homework. There is this lady who is absolutely, completely bogged down with her work life. And she might be getting hardly a couple of hours in the day, of which sometimes she has to have for herself, some time for the family, where is the time for her to help children to complete their homework. So she has outsourced it. Okay. High value, high effort. This is interesting. You know it is very valuable. It is going to be very meaningful for you. It might bring in not just satisfaction, but also bring in some economical advantage, some financial advantage. Chunk it. Don't do it at one time. I'll give you a very simple example. I've been connected with the fitness world also for a very long time. So people, most of them, men and women, are busy today. And if they are advised to walk half an hour to 1 hour a day, they will say, where is the time? You don't have to. You can chunk it in 15-minute slot. You can do it after breakfast. You can do it after lunch. You can do it after dinner. You can do it somewhere in between. So that's high value, high effort, but you can chunk it. Again, coming to people who are passionate about writing, I am one of them. I am not a woman, but there are a lot of women I know who are bloggers, and they're authors, and they would love to. They look at a life after work where they would like to be more prolific with their writing and become published authors. Don't postpone your writing for that one day when you will not have any work. You can chunk it in small pieces. Maybe you can chapterize and make certain plans by which you can write one chapter a week. And that too you can chunk. Maybe half an hour of writing a day. So just giving you some example. So that is the management aspect of it. But how do I manage the emotional aspect of it? In the first place, how can I avoid getting into this conflict where I'm a team member, a student, a daughter, a mother, and in-law, and whatever? So it's a never-ending list of roles. So we will look at that. The other challenge is role strain. As a woman, you have been asked to take on very ambitious goals and be the best. But you can't afford to make your team members look bad, even if they are mediocre or even not performing. You have to toe the line. You have to feign to be mediocre. You cannot shine in excellence and make the other feel shy about it. No. No, these are the very silly political vibes that a woman faces and deals with in a workplace scenario. So we will look at how to deal with it. Excellence, you cannot compromise with excellence. How can excellence be excellence and yet one can toe the line with the mediocrity, which is the larger population, right? So let's look at what is causing it. One of the most important factors, and you need to now at this point in time touch your soul and look inside. How often do you do something to please others? And that is when, as a matter of fact, if you're not able to do it, you feel guilty. Centauri is the remedy for that. Pleasing others, not having a space of your own, and definitely not being able to assert, doesn't allow you to make choices. Things are all have to do, not choose to do. And that's when you suffer not only from guilt, but guilt which later on leads to anger. Right? So, overly concerned, especially with children. Are you? These are some toxic inner self factors of yours which you need to take care of. What will happen to them if they catch cold? What will happen to them if they are coming late from the school, college, or workplace, or wherever? Get tested. over enthusiastic. Now, these are the people who can get into a role strain situation. Excellent, but over enthusiastic, where they are doing everything with a lot of zeal, lot of uh, enthusiasm, and there is a sense deep inside, it's, it's a belief, a deep belief inside, which says that it is fair for me because I am better than them, because I am excellent, to outshine the others. Now, this is something which causes very, very uncomfortable ripple in the workplace because your manager will not like it. Definitely, your team members will not like it. Vervain is the remedy for it. Like, dislike with respect to work. I don't like working on spreadsheets. I don't like making report. I don't like, for example, following up with the customer. But I like getting into a sales call. I like strategizing based on reports submitted to me. I like ideation. I like innovation, right? It's a true story. There is a remedy for that where you can bring a balance and you can. Every job has a not so exciting component and an exciting component. You can balance the two and not so grudgingly, but as a thing that you can do and you wish to do and maybe choose to do, you can do that part which is not so exciting also. And that remedy is just a part. Perfectionism. Now, deadline has something to do with perfectionism. Also, let's look at that particular stringent deadlines, imposing stringent. When will somebody impose stringent deadlines? When the person will know, I think I have left out one. When the person will know that this guy is, or this woman is a slogger, that give her as much as you want. So might be pleasing others is one of the underlying causes for you to be getting stringent deadlines. Perfectionism is another, where the deadline becomes stringent because you're so perfect that you lose sight of the deadline. And you want to do every piece of that work to the highest degree of perfection. To be able to cope with that crab apple. There are some who are dogmatic, highly principled. Now, when you are at workplace, there's one thing which is important for us to understand, that going to work is like a sports person goes to the field to play a game. It has its own rule. You don a uniform, you go there and you come back and you take off the uniform and get back into your normal dress. It's like that. But most importantly, if you are playing a game and if you have chosen to play that game, you have to play by the rules of the game. You can't be saying that, well, I'm a baseball player and I'll play cricket by the rules of baseball. That's not allowed. So dogmatism brings in that, where I personally believe in certain principles which are rigid. It's difficult for me to flow. It's difficult for me to accept that something is flexible. And then it causes a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, and a lot of strain also inside, and often leading to a person quitting the job. Rock water is the remedy. What does it lead to? Let's look at that. exhaustion, being overburdened, being overwhelmed, mental fog, on beam. These are just four. I mean, there are n number of situations. Guilt was one of them. You talked about pride, anger and disgust, Holly, and quitting, which is chestnut bud again. Chestnut bud, typically, if it is negative, if you have a negative chestnut bud state, you will not stay put with a job if it is not happy for you for a prolonged period of time. These are the people who get into a pattern of moving or hopping from one job to the other. So this is the essence of why role conflict happens. And if there is a role conflict leading to work-life imbalance, the emotional overhead, how can it be dealt with? We will come to how to go about having this. It is not very straightforward. Right at the beginning, I must tell you this, that those who are not aware, Edward Bach, before he became the discoverer of the 38 Bach Flower remedies, was a homeopath. So when the remedies were discovered, they were considered as extension of homeopathic medicine, and by nature's law, or by the law of hereditary or inheritance, they were naturally handed over to homeopaths. Okay. Now, you would have seen that homeopaths have certain approaches to healing people. But you would have also seen that households also keep a homeopathic kit. They believe they know the essentials of homeopathy, and for children, for elders, for themselves, if anything goes wrong, they self-medicate. My homeopath completely discourages that. Anybody who is a serious practitioner will discourage that. With Bach, it is all the more discouraged, self-medication, because Bach essences the work at the unconscious level, which means the diagnosis that is required is more complex, more intricate. And unless you are equipped to self-diagnose yourself to that level of intricacy, you cannot self-heal yourself. So just to put that rider across while I've shared the remedy names, just for you to know, but that's a very simplistic approach to say that you take this remedy and you will be over with exhaustion. You take this, you will not be over enthusiastic anymore. There is a whole lot of science behind this. So we'll talk about that in short towards the end. The next is workplace discrimination and biases. Just see if you're not taken seriously. A woman is not taken seriously. So I will also invite Pooja at this stage. Pooja is a working woman, to share examples. Let me share some of the discriminations. But I have, in my workplace, I have noticed that when a woman says something, though on the face of it, people take it very seriously, but when it comes to reckoning with that, it might be a great idea. And by the way, women are more creative, more innovative, and more far-seeing. But the men counterpart, often with their logical bent of mind, cannot foresee that. So it is dismissed as something which is far-fetched at this point in time. Perceived as too difficult or too aggressive. So there are some women who are very determined and who will be very forceful in putting across their points, but that's how their nature is. but they are immediately discriminated as difficult and aggressive, as if men are not. When men, it happens with men, they seem to be in command. They are good leaders. They can carry the herd with them, but not with women. Constantly questioned, coming from a doubting of integrity. This is very, very unfortunate. And this is something where I think there should be management, there should be legal, there should be systemic interventions too, because doubting the integrity of somebody, an individual, just because she is a woman, is, according to me, not just unethical, but illegal. Perceived as outspoken or bitchy. There are women who are very spontaneous. See, this is the anomaly of the working world. At one level, people are doing training programs after training programs on psychological safety. At another level, they are too sensitive. Mankind are too sensitive if a woman confronts them with something, with data, for example, hard data, and says, tell me how is this happening? Tell me why is this happening? She is perceived as outspoken or bitchy. Not treated as equal. Women are believed to be not be able to take so much of stress and strain, are believed to not work for long hours, to not be given travel opportunities as readily as men, and so on and so forth. There are many perceived inequalities in mind of the workplace, as a result of which they are not treated as equals. Negative spotlight, and this is where gaslighting also comes in. No matter what she does, she is seen in a negative spotlight. Her good is passed on and not upheld or appreciated, but the negative that happens, there's immediately a critical feedback that comes to her. Till she starts believing that she is no good, it can lead to what is called as an imposter syndrome. See, what we need to understand over here is it is not only resulting in lack of performance and productivity loss at workplace, but it is resulting in tremendous amount of trauma in the woman, which means causing a traumatized society. Feel forced to be inauthentic and aping. We were talking about that a little while ago, that I had a manager, I don't want to share the name of the company or the manager, and I was reporting to her, and in every respect she was like a man. And much later, her manager gave her this feedback that you have a power as a woman, the feminine power, which no man can bring in. Why do you have to ape a man? Why are you forced to be inauthentic? Can you bring in your woman power? But by then she had gotten into this habit of being aggressive, of being very action-oriented, of not being too nurturing, not being too empathetic, as a result of which she had to leave the job at some point in time. Thankfully, it was a company which was culturally much more matured than many companies are. Bro culture misfit. So the bro, hey bro, let's go for a smoke. Hey bro, let's go for a beer. No, the woman does not fit in there. Unless the woman also smokes and goes for a beer. I'm not saying it is true for all women, but generally speaking. Office politics and favoritism. Now, this is interesting. It is not just between men and women. The politics runs even between women. It is related to the role strain. It is related to a person being perceived as outspoken or bitchy. It's related to a woman being outshining because of her excellence. The others gang up against her. We call it the crab syndrome. And the others could be women. And in all possibility, they could be women out of jealousy and isolated. This is the most painful thing.
Are you still here?
Nothing is okay. Many a time she gets praises but is not allowed to make decisions for herself. Yeah, so these are praises, these are not appreciations. Empowerment, because nobody knows whether she'll be able to, according to the workplace inequality that is inherent in workplace culture, can a woman manage so many people? Can a woman manage a business goal of this size? Can a woman manage this complexity, this agility that the business demands? Despite so many role models being there, not just as far as corporates are concerned, but in terms of entrepreneurs. So coming to isolation, there are some women, there's nothing much told to them, but they are given roles where there's not much of interaction with anybody, and soon she finds herself lonely and isolated. So these are some discriminations and biases that I have and none of them are exhaustive, but these are more, I would say, the prevalent ones. Now, here are some remedies. As I said, it takes two to a tango. If I'm not taken seriously, what is my contribution about it? Maybe I'm too frivolous. Maybe I'm too friendly. Acrimony. I may be very critical. And therefore, people like to either avoid me or find me bitchy. Again, Centauri, I might be giving in. I might be pleasing. I might be very nice, over kind. And people would like to take me for granted. I might not trust my own judgment, my own wisdom, as a result of which, see, you may not be saying that, but the vibes go out. People would believe that she is not capable of taking decisions. See, everything works on perception. Ultimately, at the end of the day, how have you managed your perception in your workplace? And your perceptions are directly correlated to the emotional states that you tend to carry, which are what is listed over here. Chicory, seeking excessive appreciation, very ambitious, trampling on others' toes, therefore. Crabapple, low self-worth. Low self-worth can be treated very, very shabbily. You need to build your own self-worth. Nobody is going to compensate for that. Gentian, negative, pessimistic, looking at everything with negativity, and therefore creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. You attract that reality in your life. You understand how this happens? Large, too shy to take up a role, fearing failure, performance anxiety, you'll be passed over. You might be saying that, you might be showing a lot of modesty. At the end of the day, when you're passed over, you don't feel good about it. You feel guilty. You might feel depressed. Verween, we talked about people who are very, very fiercely focused on fairness, what seems to be fair for them. So knowingly or unknowingly, you will see that they are at workplace trying to call out people when they feel that they are doing something which is unfair. But that's according to them. Maybe the rules of the game allow that. Right? Wine, boisterous, aggressive, loud. Point number 2 typically could be a wine. Water violet, seeking isolation. And when you seek isolation, you get isolation. And willow, the victim identity. When you carry your victim identity, once again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The world gives you victimhood. So just reflect on this. Are you doing some of these unconsciously? Most of these are in your unconscious, below the waterline of the iceberg. But if in the morning you wake up and for about 10 to 15 to 20 minutes, just stay with yourself, ask yourself, why is this happening to me? What in me is making this happen? What is my contribution? Your unconscious will whisper into your ears and you will get some of these answers. What is the fallout? What is the emotional fallout? Anger, feeling victimized. So willow could be the cause, willow could be the effect. There are people I have healed who have come to me with a deep sense of resignation, including contemplating self-destruction. Such has been the situation at workplace. What else? Anxiety. Do you know that in India, I don't know about the world, 3 out of 5 people are suffering from anxiety and depression. Most of them either they don't know or they know, but they are not going to any professional for treatment and therapy. Anxiety is a condition, so it needs several remedies. And again, there are different types of anxiety. I have not given a cheat list to you. Again, depression, there are several types of depression. And there are 2 very serious mental conditions. Takes long time to heal. In my experience, anywhere between 1.5 to 2 years, nothing less than that. So anyway, instead of going to the right column, my invitation to you is look at the leftmost column and fortify yourself to face the workplace discrimination bias. You can't change this, boss. The rule of the game, and that's how it is. And people are living and doing business with this, except for a few, and those are exceptions. Conscious enterprises, many people would have heard about them, but how many of them are conscious enterprises? You can browse for conscious enterprise, where they have multiple bottom lines, and people is one of them. And they genuinely practice, where wellness is not a tick mark item. DE&I is not a tick mark item. But you need to be fortunate to find one, and you need to be more fortunate to belong to one. Essentially, there could be at workplace and domestic also. Domestic because of workplace, which is very rampant, where you are made to feel guilty because you have overworked, you have stayed late, you haven't had time to look after your son, you didn't make dinner, you didn't clean the house, writing again comes in. When does this happen? Do you think it can happen with an individual who is assertive, who knows how to hold one's space and sense of self? No, it can only happen when you are a pushover, centauri. Or it can happen when you come with excessive concern for your spouse, your children, Your in-laws are not required. Each one is capable to a large extent of taking care of themselves. Similarly, at workplace, you arrive late because of some pressing issue at home. You're critiqued. So Centauri holds good over there also. Because you will not assert, you will feel guilty after that. However, you will attract it more if you are carrying an image of low self-worth, the vibe of low self-worth. The other thing that makes you a candidate for abuse and harassment is when you crave for a lot of attention. That is chicory. Be very careful. If there is a negative chicory, just to get some momentary appreciation, a pat in the back, for example, a literal pat in the back, can turn into harassment. Attention, appreciation, recognition, having someone to care for. Chicory is always looking for people to care for. Now that can be taken advantage of. Be careful. So there is no remedy, there is no antidote. There is an antidote for preventing it. But once it has happened, then of course, huge trauma, starvation, residual anger, which is holly, and it depends upon whatever emotions. I have come across somebody who has had repeated abuse and harassment at workplace, and the person has started hating oneself. Deep-seated negative crabapple. Besides, of course, guilt, depression is there. The sense of resignation is there. Wild rose. So it completely depends upon how one responds to such unfortunate situations at workplace. But they can be healed, takes time. And I only wish that they are not brought up to this stage. They can be prevented by one healing that which might be contributed to abusing, bullying, and harassing. Finally, productivity issues. I've just touched upon 4. You can see for themselves these 4 actually forms 80% of the cause for productivity issues. In the lack of trust and own wisdom, where I've talked about Serato, uncertainty generally that will cause, and if you have challenge with decision making, there could be many remedies, including scleranthus, wild oat, all of that. One of the key reasons for productivity issue is not finding meaning at workplace. To find meaning at workplace, wild oat is a remedy, but deliberately I have not written it. Wild oat has a quality of precipitating a decision. So if the workplace does not, or your role does not provide you enough of meaningfulness, you will quit. That is the power of wild oat. So unless you are ready to quit, don't take wild oat. Negativity and self-doubt, tension, procrastination, which comes in very often on people. And of course, there are so many others, but these 4, if they are taken care of, besides the previous ones, which takes care of your emotional state post a traumatic incident, you would be much better off with your productivity and performance. I think with that, I will, for those who are not initiated, these are vibrational essences without chemicals, pure, safe, without any side effects. You can take it on the go. You can take it with your water, fruit juice, whatever. You can spray it around you if you don't want to take it. You can take it in pills. You can take it as liquid. Absolutely the easiest to ingest. Helps in releasing all baggage by dousing and dissolving emotions of lower order. If you notice, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, these are all emotions of lower vibration. And the highest is enlightenment, peace, joy, love, reason, acceptance. So from here, it lifts you to that. That's the wonder of Bach Flower essences. And by lifting you to that, Otko, it brings you closer to your higher self. It helps you to connect to your higher self. But this takes time. And my recommendation is make Bach Flower a way of life. I can promise you, you will connect to your essence. You will connect to that self of yours, which is who you truly are, not the one that you have become, but your being. It has happened in the lives of people that I have helped to transform. As a result of which today, I don't talk about healing alone. I say healing and transforming with Bach Flower essences. If you are going through any of the issues that have been presented today, consider it to be a clarion call for you to go through a transformational process with the help of Bach Flower essence. The last point is very important because they are vibrational. They also carve out your external reality. You can get a job, you can get promoted, you can do well in your business. You may want to relatively make more money than what you're making today with Bach Flower. And of course, you can land a very, very meaningful relationship. If you have one, you can make it meaningful. If you don't have one, you can find someone who can make meaningful relationship, all with this new age quantum medicine called Bach Flower essence. I deliberately don't use the word remedy and therapy because to me, this system of medicine is not for illness, it is for wellness. And I would request you all to change your mindset and use Bach Flower essences and healing and transformation instead of therapy and remedy. Just a quick view of some of the remedies that you may want to carry in your kit with what will make it more harmonious in your life. But the right side will tell you what immense amount of intricacies involved in deciding on not just which remedies, but what combinations, because not all combinations work as effectively. Harmonious composites are required. And how do you stage them out? It needs a proper education. It needs one, for example, you will not go to a doctor who has learned medicine by sitting on Facebook groups, right? So it is as serious as that. Friends, please understand, I've arrived at it after making a lot of mistakes. And today I take it very seriously. As a matter of fact, I discourage people who take it frivolously and flippantly and tell them very clearly, don't do it with Bach. You can do it with any other modality of healing. So there are 4 stages in healing and transformation with Bach Flowers: consultation, diagnosis, prescription, and review. Very important. Periodically reviewing and changing the remedies because emotions are dynamic and you can't just take one set of remedies and hope that you will get healed. Over a period of 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years to 2 years, continuously review, change the prescriptions, review, consult, change the prescription, review, consult, change the prescriptions. So it is sustained, it is iterative, It's holistic, as many people believe, that can it heal my sciatica? Can it heal my hive? Can it heal my eczema? Those are foolish people asking foolish questions because those are all symptoms. Bach heals the cause, and the cause is the individual. It looks at the whole being getting healed. So never get carried with the disease and medicine mindset. Uphold yourself as a whole and a complete being and have faith and patience that if you have taken to healing and transformation with Bach essences, you will be healed and transformed beyond imagination. Yes, it is fascinatingly miraculous. Your questions, I'll stop sharing at this stage. Meanwhile, I am putting up a form, a link to a form. We request your feedback, and if you can fill up the form, it will help us to stay connected with you. That's one, and also bring more relevant topics for you in the upcoming episodes. So here is the link to the form. You can copy it, or I would prefer, as you are here in the meeting room, it's a simple link, it's a simple form. Please go through it and fill up whatever is relevant for you. Meanwhile, questions.
The link is not visible.
Yeah.
You want to share it in the chat box?
It's not visible?
No, your screen is not shared. Yeah. You can just put it in the chat box. It will be visible for everyone.
I have shared in the chat box.
Yeah,
Now
it's just come.
Oh, I did not click it. My bad. You can click it and fill up. Okay, if I close the chat box, it will still be visible.
Yeah.
Questions? You can switch on your videos, unmute yourself as you speak, and ask questions. We have a little time. I think I took a lot of time presenting today. Normally, I close by 7:45 India time, but no problem. I have time. I can take all your questions, and I'm sure there will be a lot of questions. Bring in real case studies. Pooja, you would like to share your experience? And how Bach has helped you?
Yes. So when I took up a new job some time ago, it was an established team, and it was a little difficult to become a part of the team because I come with a different experience. So I started feeling isolated and picked upon by the team members, and also kind of being victimized by the manager for a long time. And kind of then Indroneil started helping me with Bach Flower therapy. That's when slowly the transition started happening, that I need to make the effort to move from they versus me to becoming a part of the team, because I'm sure I also gave that kind of vibes that I'm not interested, I'm different, I'm better. So they probably would have felt those vibes, and they reacted in a normal manner. So yeah, it's been very helpful for me in terms of my peace of mind and comfort. I feel more easy and ready to partner with my team, collaborate without thinking of, oh, they will sideline me or anything, because in the end we are all working together. So yeah, it's helped me a lot.
So how do you manage your passion and profession? Your passion for cooking, you being a home baker.
Oh, okay. So in the beginning, it was very difficult. I used to feel very guilty for not being able to do anything. And then I decided, I think I do have weekends, so I could spend a few hours every weekend baking. which I have started doing. And that has also happened because of Bach Flower. Otherwise, I would say, oh, weekends are just to rest. I used to be exhausted. And now I'm able to make time and have started baking again. So yeah, that's another thing that's happened.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to share their experience? Okay, so if there aren't many questions or any questions, please fill up the form so that you can indicate in the form also what are the topics you would like us to deliberate upon, and we would definitely come back. We'll add your name to all the Dutch Friends Club so that you are updated in terms of what is coming up, not just webinars. We keep having different events and launches, and we'll let you know. And let's stay in touch. Fill up the form so that I can stay in touch with you. Also, I can address if there are immediate issues that you would like to address. I can help you with that also. So, till such time, when we meet again, see you when we see you. A very, very good evening from India. A fantastic day to those from the West. And look forward to staying in touch and catching up very soon. Thanks, Bala, and let's keep in touch. Bye, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you so much.